With this chapter, we begin the second major division of the technique, the evaluation of arguments. Step 5 will teach you how to identify any fallacies that are being employed. Fallacies are forms of bad reasoning that are often accepted by uncritical thinkers as good evidence for the conclusion. In this chapter, arguments will be evaluated by asking the following questions. 1. Are the premises relevant to the conclusion? To what degree? 2. Are the premises true? If you disagree with them, is the disagreement factual, evaluative, interpretive, or verbal? 3. Are the premises fair, or are they slanted or biased? How so? 4. Are the premises adequate? Is there a need for more evidence? And are important objections to the argument considered, or are they ignored? One common mistake people make is to confuse a fallacious argument with a false claim. If someone were to say, for instance, it is a fallacy to think that we are now in a depression, she is using the term incorrectly. She should have said instead something like, the belief that we are now in a depression is false. A fallacy is not a false statement. Instead, it is a faulty connection between statements. It is important not to confuse these terms because the discovery of a fallacy within an argument does not mean that the conclusion to the argument is necessarily false. It only means that the conclusion does not follow from this particular set of premises. Fallacies may or may not be intentional in some cases. Fallacies are used intentionally to dupe or trick an audience. In others, however, fallacies are used unintentionally. Their unintentional use usually results from poor habits of reasoning, but whether or not they are intentional, it is important to detect fallacies and to show why they can be misleading. Remember also that fallacies are context-dependent. This means that a fallacy can be cited as one only because of its role in the reasoning process. A joke made to sidetrack an opponent in a debate can be considered a fallacy, but a humorous political cartoon would not normally be considered fallacious. In this chapter, we try to set some guidelines to determine when the context of an argument shows that a fallacy has occurred. One of the reasons fallacies are so seductive is that they sometimes tend to parallel good forms of reasoning. This is another reason to be aware of the context in which an alleged fallacy is thought to occur. By examining the context, we may also determine whether or not a fallacy has indeed occurred. As we examine the individual fallacies, we will also try to show the viable forms of reasoning which they resemble. The number of actual fallacies that can occur is indefinite. It is doubtful that there could ever be an exhaustive list of all the mistaken forms of reasoning. This is partially because people are continually coming up with new ways of supporting their beliefs. From Aristotle's earliest attempt to identify and catalog fallacies to the present day, there has been no agreement as to the number or even the types of fallacies. What we have done in this text is to come up with a workable number of the most frequently occurring fallacies. They fall into two general categories. 1. Fallacies caused by problems with the evidence or premises, as a result of which three general types of problems can occur. A. The premises are irrelevant to the conclusion, either psychologically or grammatically misleading. B. The premises are inadequate support for the conclusion. C. The premises are unfair or biased in relation to the conclusion. 2. Fallacies caused by problems with the alleged link between premises and conclusion. In the explanation of fallacies that follows, we have tried to keep the technical terms to a minimum. Although you should learn the names of these fallacies, the more important thing is to recognize the error in each and why it prevents the particular argument from establishing the truth of its conclusion.